जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
मुर्दा बुतों से जान, मुर्दा बुतों से जान छुड़ाते तो खूब था।
Can I request Sabahat, Aman, Ahmed for the tilawat, please?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ووصى بها إبراهيم بنيه ويعقوب يا بني إن الله اصطفى لكم الدين فلا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. The translation of the verses recited before you is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, ever merciful. The same did Ibrahim alayhi salam enjoin upon his sons, and so did Yakub alayhi salam, saying, O my sons, truly Allah has chosen this religion for you, so let not death overtake you, except when you are in a state of submission. Jazakallah.
Okay, Jazakumullah. So I'm having a bit of difficulty today. I don't know what's going on here.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. While Murabi Sabi is putting up the slides up, for those who have got any comments or questions, please send them to either in the chat and Munawar Sab will pick them up, inshallah. So please do feel free to share your questions or comment in case you have anything, or if you have anything which is not related, but of course it's not out of the topic completely, you're more than welcome to ask a question and Murabi Saab will be quite happy to answer that questions. Of course, if it is not a fiqhi question, I'm sure then Murabi Saab still of Jazakallah.
Okay, great. Very sorry about this. I'm having all sorts of problems today. I don't know why. Right, so Jazakumullah for the tilawat, and today the continuation of doing the prophets from the Bible, from the Holy Quran, and today we're doing who is Hazrat alayhi salam. So let's see how we get on with this. Okay. Hazrat Yakub alayhi salam, or Jacob alayhi salam in English, he was the son of the prophet Isaac alayhi salam, and so therefore he was the grandson of the prophet Abraham alayhi salam, or Ibrahim. He was given the name Israel by Allah, and he had 12 sons, which eventually became the 12 tribes of the Israelites. Now, according to the Bible, Jacob was the second son of Isaac, and the eldest being his twin, his brother Esau. So this leads to the first false allegations that were made against Jacob. As I said, I'm trying to show the differences between the Holy Quran and Holy Bible. So this is the first two that is mentioned. Now it states that Jacob is said to have brought Esau's birthright, and then with his mother's help, he deceived his aging father, the prophet Isaac alayhi salam, to get Isaac to bless him instead of his brother Esau. So here's a picture of this section. So in Genesis chapter 25, verses 28 to 34, it relates, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. Venison is deer meat. But Rebecca, his wife, loved Jacob. So it shows that both parents, they preferred or had a favorite different to each other. And Jacob sod pottage. It means that he was making some food. And Esau came from the field and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. And Jacob said to him, sell me this day your birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Now, Esau, as I said, he was born first. They were twins, but he was the first one. And technically, he is then classified as the firstborn. Now, as the firstborn child, Esau automatically held the birthright. A birthright was an honor given to the firstborn, bestowing the head of the household, a status and a right to inherit the father's estate. Jacob was to become a prophet of Allah, and Allah always chooses his prophets from the most righteous. Allah protects them from sin right from birth. This is what we Muslims believe. But here we're led to believe that Jacob was willing to allow his brother to die just so that he can get Esau's birthright. So this does not seem correct. Not even a normal person would stoop this low, but a prophet of Allah, how is he willing to behave like this just so that he can attain a birthright? So it seems that in the book of Genesis, similar stories are mentioned and allegations are raised. Now, so far, it's always been from the book of Genesis. And so this contains the history of the Jews, but it is, as I'm exposing, a lot of alterations, you can say. The issue of the firstborn was raised concerning Hazrat Ishmael salam and his brother Hazrat Isaac salam. Hazrat Ishmael was the firstborn, and yet the Bible tries to assert that Isaac was, and he was the favored one, and Ishmael despised. This is how the Bible portrays it. And now the Bible is portraying that Jacob is the favored one, and Esau is despised. But in the Bible, it states in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 15, if a man has two wives, one is beloved and the other is hated, and they are born with him children, both the beloved and the hated, they have children. And if the firstborn son be hers that is hated, then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. So here is making it very clear that the firstborn has to have the right. Whether he's loved or hated makes no difference. He is the firstborn, that is his right. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated as the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath. So it makes no difference if there's favorites, a firstborn is a firstborn. For he is the beginning of his strength, the right of the firstborn is his. Again in Exodus, another book of the Torah, chapter 13, verse 2, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. So therefore it's very clear that the firstborn is the firstborn. This is his right. It can't be taken away. It can't be sold, no matter what the Bible is trying to claim. Now, of course, God knows, as it's saying in this verse, God knows who is the firstborn, and it is that person's right. So this is the right that God has given, and no one can take that away. Now, concerning the second allegation, that of the blessing, it's related in Genesis chapter 27, verse 1. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, means he couldn't see properly, so that he could not see, he called Esau, his eldest son, and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, behold, here I am. And he said, behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, and take me some venison, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. So here Isaac is saying that he's getting very old, he's about to die, and he loves this venison, this meat. So he's asking Esau to bring him some venison, and then he will give him this blessing. But it then continues that Rebekah, Isaac's wife, heard when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son, and Rebekah spoke to Jacob, her favorite son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau, thy brother, saying, Bring me venison, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord, before my death. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loved. So here he's telling her son, that he should go and get 2 small goats and bring him to her, and she will make some food and present it to her husband, or he will present it to her husband. So she continues that thou shalt bring it to thy father, and he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. So here she is trying to trick Isaac into blessing Jacob instead of Esau. But Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will fill me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver. So this was his fear, that he will know that he's being deceived. And I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. But his mother continued to say to him, Upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice and go fetch them for me. And so therefore, apparently Jacob went and fetched and brought him these 2 kids to his mother, and she made the savory meat which her husband loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment, clothes of the eldest son, Esau, and put them upon Jacob, her youngest son. She then put the skins of the kids of the goats onto his hands and upon the smooth of his neck, and gave the savory meat and the bread into the hands of her son Jacob. And so Jacob came to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according to thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. So it continues in Genesis chapter 27, verse 21. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my son Esau or not. So he was having doubts because the voice was different. And Jacob went near to Isaac, his father, and Isaac felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, and yet the hands are the hands of Esau. It's all hairy. So here is a picture depicting this deception of Jacob. You can see he's got the kid's hands and on his neck, wall to fool his father. And so Isaac blessed Jacob and smelled the smell of the raiment, his clothes, and blessed him. Therefore, God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. So let Jacob bow down to Esau. This was a blessing which Isaac gave to what he thought was Esau. Genesis 27 verse 30 states, When Esau returned and offered his offering of slavery meat to his father to receive that blessing that was promised, Isaac asked him, Who are you? And Esau replied, I am your son. I'm the firstborn. I'm Esau. But then when Isaac told Esau what had happened and he heard the words of his father, he then realized that Jacob had deceived his father and taken away the blessing from him. So Esau cried unto his father that bless me, even me also, O my father. So he still wanted to get those blessings from his father. But his father said, thy brother came with subtlety and has taken away these blessings. So Esau said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he have taken away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. So these were two things which Jacob had taken from Esau. Now, when we're talking about blessings, these are blessings which Allah bestows. Allah is all hearing, all knowing. He knows all things. How would Allah allow this injustice to happen? And would a prophet of Allah behave in such a way? Likewise, venison is deer meat. I'm sure, I don't know, he must have had venison, but he certainly must have had goat meat. They're completely different types of meat. Now here we're talking about Isaac, who loves this meat. He loves this deer meat, and yet he's given goat meat, completely different type of meat. And he didn't notice a difference. None of this is making any sense at all. Isaac recognized Jacob's voice. He could tell that the voice was different. And yet he became deceived by feeling the fur of the goat, young goat. Oh, yeah, it's one of those days today. Allah would have informed Isaac of this deception. So if this really did happen, then of course we believe that Allah would have informed Isaac, his prophet. Of course, he's not going to allow Isaac to be deceived. So this action apparently led to Esau now wanting to kill his brother, which again reminds us of the story of the two sons of Adam. And that is quite familiar with the Bible, with this Genesis, that there are repeating stories over and over again. So this seems to be another one of those repeated stories. Now, despite this deception, the prophet Isaac, alayhi salam, allowed the prophet Jacob, alayhi salam, to keep these blessings which he bestowed upon him. So once he became aware of this deception, instead of now blessing Isaac, he allowed the prophet Jacob to apparently keep the blessings, which again doesn't make sense. Why would a prophet of Allah behave unjustly like this? And we see that the result of this was that Jacob was then sent away. And so apparently, despite being blessed, he had to leave his parents. So he was after the blessings, but because of the anger now of Esau, he had to run away. And so Jacob, it relates in the Bible, had to flee to Haran, where at that place he married 4 times and had 12 children from his wives. So here is a family tree showing Jacob and the 4 wives and the children that he got from those 4 wives, which we're going to now. Now, first of all, what does the Holy Quran state? The Holy Quran makes it very clear that Jacob was a prophet of Allah. In chapter 19, verse 50, we bestowed upon him Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and each of them we made a prophet. Very clear declaration. And we granted them abundantly of our mercy, and we bestowed upon them true and lasting renown. Oops. So this verse shows that Jacob had a very good reputation and was remembered with respect and affection and loved by the contemporaries and future generations. There's none of this hatred of Esau or deception or anything like this. So as far as we're concerned, Muslims are concerned, this clears the supposed allegations that made against Jacob, that he used force and deception to get what he wanted. He couldn't have done this, and as it's saying, that he, according to the Holy Quran, is a prophet and has a very good reputation. Again, the Holy Quran further relates in chapter 29, verse 18, that Allah gave him his reward in this life, and in the hereafter he shall be among the righteous. Now, how can Allah do that if he behaved in such a terrible way? So therefore, the Holy Quran makes it very, very clear that the prophet Jacob was a righteous man and he behaved properly. As I said, the Holy Quran is there to remove these false allegations. Again, in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 133, it also mentions that Abraham taught the faith of pure monotheism, oneness of God, to his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, as well as Jacob, as it relates, O my sons, Truly, Allah has chosen this religion for you. So let not death overtake you except when you're in a complete state of submission, when you're a Muslim. Holy Quran, chapter 6, verse 85 also mentions that Jacob was guided right and given knowledge by Allah. And we made them righteous leaders who guided people by our command. And we sent revelation to them, enjoining the doing of good works and prayers and alms giving. So here it's very clear that the Holy Quran, or Allah, looks upon Jacob as a righteous servant who did good works. He didn't do deception as is being portrayed in the Bible. Now, as I mentioned, Jacob married 4 times, but again, this is very questionable. Jacob met his first cousin, Rachel, and fell in love with Rachel. Apparently, according to the Bible, at this time, he was 77 years old. Jacob then agrees with her father, Rachel's father, Laban, his uncle, to work 7 years for the hand of Rachel, which was agreed to. So he would serve for 7 years and then he would get married. So when he was 84 years old, he completed this agreement and finally he was allowed to marry Rachel. And then what happens? Laban deceived him by switching Rachel for her older sister, Leanne. Apparently, despite knowing Rachel and Leanne very well, Jacob did not realize that this was Leanne. Now, some of the commentators say that it was because she was veiled, but this is not mentioned anywhere. They're just presuming that because she was wearing a veil, Jacob didn't recognize Leanne and thought it was Rachel. So in the morning, after being together all night, Jacob then discovers the truth. Now, when he goes to the uncle Laban, Laban justifies his action by saying that it was a custom for the older daughter to be given before the younger one. Again, if this was the custom, it should have been made clear right from the beginning. Why use this deception? So then apparently Jacob agrees to work another 7 years for Laban on condition that he can now marry Rachel. And so this is what happened. He married Rachel. Now, Jacob loves Rachel more than Leanne, but Leanne is the one that had children with him. Then Rachel gives his handmaiden Bilhah to Jacob to have children. Again, very similar to what happened with Abraham, apparently, according to the Bible, that his wife, Abraham's wife, Sarah, gave her supposed handmaiden to Hagar to Abraham. Jacob then has more children with Bilhah, and still Rachel remains barren. And then apparently Leanne then gives her handmaiden Zilpah to Jacob to have more children. And finally, Rachel also has 2 children, which is the prophet Joseph and Benjamin. So after this, God informs Jacob to return now back to Canaan, the promised land, to where his parents were. And he takes his family and leaves, despite Laban not wanting to leave. So although he's been there for at least 14 years, Laban still did not want him to leave. And so this created bad feeling. He started accusing Jacob of theft and being cheated just so that he could keep her there. And finally, after a long story, Laban allows him to depart. Now, Jacob was concerned how his brother Esau would react to his return after taking away his birthright and the blessings. And so before reaching there, he sends a flock of animals as a tribute. The Bible then relates about how overnight Jacob wrestles with an angel. Some commentators say it was with God himself all night long. We're talking about a very old man here, although the picture looks quite young. He is at least 84, maybe older, and he spends a whole night apparently wrestling with an angel. The angel could not overpower Jacob, and so he touches his sinew on his thigh, causing Jacob to have from then on a limp. And the Bible states that because of this, to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh, which is on the hip socket. So this is what they have forbidden to themselves. Now, again, the Quran mentions that kosher meat is lawful, chapter 5, 6. So the food of the children of Israel is lawful for Muslims. But there are certain foods, and this is one of them, where the Jews themselves forbid. So we can eat this, but the Jews can't eat this. And then relates that after the day broke, Jacob refused to let the angel go until he blessed him. The angel gives him the name Israel, meaning one that struggled with the divine angel, or one who has prevailed with God. The Holy Quran doesn't mention how the name came about or even refer to Jacob as Israel, but we presume that this was a dream and there was some truth in this. Now, the final point I want to discuss is, again, another incident of deception. Now, I'll speak more about this when we start to discuss the Prophet Joseph, salam. But we see that once again, the sons of Jacob deceived the Prophet Jacob into believing that a wolf devoured Joseph. The same incident, of course, is mentioned both in the Holy Quran and the Holy Bible. And there's a whole chapter on this in the Holy Quran. But there are some differences which I'm going to point out now. So the Holy Bible relates that Joseph at that time was 17 years of age when he reported to his father the misdeeds of his brothers. And the brothers became jealous of him and ridiculed him often. Jacob made a long coat or a tunic of many colors, which for Joseph, which was not appreciated by the brothers. So they also became jealous of this. Joseph had a dream that implied that his family would bow down to him. Joseph told this dream to his brothers, and Jacob became very angry. Jacob rebuked his son for proposing the idea that the house of Jacob would bow down to Joseph. He said, "What is this dream that thou hast dreamt? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth?" Now, Jacob is known for having dreams himself. There's the famous Jacob's ladder of he dreaming of angels going up and down to heaven, as is depicted in the picture. And as I've already mentioned, the wrestling with angels. These are two of the dreams that Jacob apparently had. But now when Joseph tells Jacob of his dream, he starts to question this dream, that how can this be true, and so on and so forth. Again, this doesn't make any sense. So we have to turn to the Holy Quran. And the Holy Quran, first of all, of course, we understood that Joseph was a small child, not 17-year-old, a small child at that time. But anyway, it reveals that first Joseph was only told his father, and his father told him not to tell his brothers. So whereas the Bible says he told his brothers, the Holy Quran says, oh, don't do that. As it states, he said, "O my dear son, relate not thy dream to thy brothers, lest they contrive plot against thee, for Shaitan is to man an open enemy." Secondly, Joseph fully believed in him and his dream, as the Holy Quran says, "And thus, as thou hast seen, thy Lord through thee and teach thee the interpretation of things divine, and perfect his favor upon thee and upon the family of Jacob." So he fully understood this dream and supported this dream. The Holy Bible states that Jacob sent Joseph to find his brothers who were looking after sheep and return with a report to him. Whereas the Holy Quran relates that the brothers themselves plotted to have Joseph sent to them, even though they knew that Jacob would not like it. As it says, "O my father, why dost thou not trust us with respect to Joseph? We are certainly his sincere well-wishers." Again, the Holy Bible relates that the brothers put Joseph in a well, and then they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites. So these people came to the well and they, for money, sold him. Whereas the Holy Quran states that the brothers did leave him down in the well, but they left. And then later on, he was discovered. As it says, "And they, brothers, came to their father in the evening weeping. And then there came a caravan of travelers, and they sent down a bucket into the well and then said, oh, good news, here is a youth." Again, the Bible states that Jacob believed his sons, that a wolf devoured Joseph, sorry, a mistake. So he rent his clothes and put sackcloth around his waist, mourning for days. This is Jacob. No one from the house of Jacob could comfort him during this time of bereavement. So it shows how when he heard the news of his son, how he lamented for many, many days. Whereas the Holy Quran states that Jacob displeased his sons and said, "This is what you say is not true, but your souls have made it a great thing appear light in your eyes." So, of course, we understand that Allah guides his prophets and helps them. Jacob understood the dream that Joseph got and knew that Allah would fulfill it and protect Joseph. So he knew that he's not going to die as a small child. He had a greater future ahead of him. The Holy Quran emphasizes that Jacob continued to keep believing that his son was alive and that they would meet again. If you read this story, it's very often come about. As it says, "I only complain of my sorrow and my grief to Allah, and I know from Allah that which you know not." So Jacob knew that Joseph was still alive. The Holy Quran removed the idea that a prophet of Allah can be used deception or can be deceived. Such a thing, we believe all prophets are sinless. They can't do such things. They are guided by Allah and they strive to win the blessings from Allah and not be running after the pleasures of the world. Now, as I said, with the prophets of Allah, there's normally a message also helping us to understand how we should be behaving. The main message we understand from the story of Jacob is that he instilled in all of his children the strong belief in the unity of Allah, that there's one God. And this led to the Israelites, to this very day, having a firm belief in the unity of God. So that was the main message that we believe was about the prophet Jacob. Right, so that's my talk, and now we open it up for any comments, any questions. Again, the usual way, if you just want to speak, or you can come on chat line, or you can raise your hand. So has anybody got anything they would like to say? Another stuff?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Rabbi Sahib. We have two questions in chat. So,
Right, okay, good.
the first question is, the question is, what answer can we give to those who raise allegation that Holy Quran was copied from the Bible?
Well, I've just been showing the differences. And obviously, this is the problem they have. They say that we've copied the Bible, but there are many differences. And as we've shown here in this book of Genesis, it's full of holes. How can anyone believe these stories? You know, I'm tearing it apart. Whereas when we look at the Holy Quran, it is solid. It is removing all these false allegations. So anyone who brings up this allegation, let them read what the Holy Quran is saying. And that will give a story, answer which proves true. But when you read the Bible, like I say, when you read this Genesis, it doesn't make any sense at all. How can a prophet of God make so much deceptions and then be deceived himself? We can't accept this. So this clearly shows that this is not what happened. This is later on, the Jews have made up these stories on purpose or by accident, I don't know. And I'm surprised when I'm reading through the Bible and hearing this nonsense that is saying about prophets of God. I'm very, very thankful that we have the Holy Quran, which is revealing the truth. So the Holy Quran is a very good what it's saying, as I pointed out here, and always projects the prophets in a proper light. They are prophets of Allah. They are excellent examples, not people who deceive or are being deceived. So that's how I would answer such a question. So there's a second question.
The second question is, according to the Bible, Jacob had 13 children, 12 sons and 1 daughter called Dinah. How true is this, and who are the descendant of Dinah? And if any are they also Jews?
If any what, sorry?
If any, are they also Jews?
Also Jews.
Yeah.
As I said, Israel had, or Jacob had 12 sons. And of those 12 sons, Israel was divided. So each part of Israel was given to a portion of those 12 sons. And so this was the blessings of Jacob. that the Israelites became from the 12 sons. Yes, it's true that he also had Dinah, a daughter, but there's no real significance from her ancestry. I don't know what happened there. It's mainly pointing, according to the Bible, it's trying to emphasize 12 tribes of Israel. And that's something which is continuous, even to the time of Jesus, where he said, I've gone to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He's referring to those 12 tribes that had been scattered over time. So these 12 tribes originated from the 12 sons of Israel. So this is how the original division happened. And because in the Bible, the male child has sort of more say, if you like, than girls. So the emphasis was on the boys, not on the girl. So I don't know much about Dinah. I haven't really studied her, so I can't really tell you much about her. It just says that he had a girl as well, but it mainly emphasizes on the boys, the 12 tribes. Okay.
So we have one more question in chat.
Okay, good.
So the question is, when it was said that the Jacob alayhi salam had a lot of divinely guided dreams, would this be the Christian perspective, or does the Islamic view agree with the aforementioned statement?
I mean, obviously, we believe that Allah always speaks to his beloved, whether they're prophets, whoever they are, even you and I. Allah gives us dreams, gives us revelations, shows us kashifs, visions, and things like this. But the prophets of Allah, because they are so close to Allah, they get much more and more guidance. So we believe that all the prophets of Allah receive dreams, receive revelations, receive guidance, and that's very, very important. Now, the understanding, again, we always have difficulty understanding dreams, but certain people, they have a good understanding. And obviously, like present day, we'll go to the Khalifa, and he has a good understanding of dreams and so on and so forth. So with Jacob, he seems that he had a good understanding of dreams. Joseph, of course, is famous for his interpretation of dreams. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, there are two particular dreams of Jacob. One was what is known as Jacob's ladder. It's a very famous among the Christians and Jews of how Jacob saw this ladder going up to heaven and saw angels coming up and down there, meaning that God is sending blessings on Jacob. So it's an indication again of his high status. The second one is a wonderful one, and I can only imagine it's a dream. I don't take it as literally that obviously Jacob fighting with an angel or fighting with God. This can't be. And fighting all night, it doesn't make any sense. So it's, you know, time doesn't really have any aspect in a dream. We see in the Holy Quran how someone saw 100 years as if it was just a day. So here, the indication was to Jacob that it was overnight, but it was just a dream. Why it should happen, we don't know. Main thing we get from that dream is that the angel gave the name Israel to Jacob, and they translate the meaning of Israel as struggle with God. And so maybe from the translation of the name, they have invented this dream. Who knows? I don't know if it's true or not. All I know, it's mentioned in the Bible. The dreams are not mentioned in the Holy Quran belonging to Isaac. The only dream mentioned there belongs to Joseph. But as we said, when he heard the dream of Joseph, he understood it straight away. So he had a good understanding of dreams. And it wouldn't surprise me if he had dreams. Why not? All prophets have dreams. So this is nothing unusual for prophets. They are close to God and they get these dreams and get many of them. So yes, we believe he had dreams. Whether how it happened, if it's like what the Bible says, that we don't know. Okay, so anybody else got any questions or anything they would like to ask?
Walaikum salam. No, Rabbi Sahab, I think, alhamdulillah, jazakallah, for the presentation. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of God, well received, jazakallah.
Right. So, I mean, Toby, what do you think about this deception of Jacob's? Do you think it could possibly have happened, or how do you see it?
Rabbi Sahab, I think as you have, we are so blessed, as you beautifully said, that for us to have a Holy Quran. Without a Holy Quran, we would not come close to understanding about the beauties, not just only Jacob, but some of the prophets of what it has been said previously, even from the presentation you gave. So the advantage we have here is where we see that actually when the Quran says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, now we come to see when you're sharing some of these quotes, verses from the Bible, it actually reflects, and then you show exactly what the Quran is giving the clear image of what the truth is. So I would say, alhamdulillah, summa alhamdulillah, that the beauty we have to answer all of this is the Holy Quran. Without the Holy Quran, we would not. Only challenge we have, Rabbi, is most of the, it will come across and say, well, you know that the Bible came before the Quran. But again, of course, the best way is, as Murabbi Sahab has just given, is that to show the truth from the Quran point of view and share a few lines. You can imagine the contradiction which is in these verses. So that is what I would say as addition for the comment.
I mean, if we even look at the picture that's on the screen at the moment, could a prophet, anybody be deceived like this? I don't know how Jews accept these sort of things. It's amazing. They've got such a poor image of these prophets. I don't know if they call, I presume they call Jacob a prophet, but it's amazing when you're reading these stories in the Bible, in Genesis, how they are believed by the people. And even when I was at Sunday school and things like that, we heard stories, but really we think they weren't given too much detail. So I never actually read the verses. I'm only just now really reading these verses, and I'm just amazed in what I'm reading half the time. But anyway, it is an eye opener. But like you say, alhamdulillah, at least we've got the Holy Quran, so that helps us to remove any doubts that we could have.
Before you close, can you explain a little bit more on the picture as we see? Of course, that shows, as we see right now, what runs to my brain for me as from the African descent is that right now we are having paralyzed pastors, those who are, pretending that they have got a power of spirits, they have special oil, and they are saying that they touch on people and they're praying for them. And not only that, again, we go to the so-called, I know you covered that as well some time back. We also have the so-called mullahs who have actually copying the Christian pastors by saying that they squeeze out from people's jinnis, and eventually, instead of squeezing jinns, they are abusing girls, they are abusing children. Explain a little bit more on this picture itself.
I mean, it's all to do with faith and what you accept or what are you allowed to accept. And this is what the people are doing. They're trying to portray that they're representing God. They got this power from God, and people believe in that. And, the mind is a thing that if you start believing something, then if anything happens, you accept that thing. So this is what they say, that through my hands, I can take out these jinns, or through my hands, I can give you this blessing. I can make you walk, and so on and so forth. Some of it is deception, of course, and some of it is just that a person has that faith in that what a person is telling him, that he believes it's true, and other people believe that it's true. So they play on this faith, and this is the danger that we see these days. This is why we keep encouraging the youngsters to learn about the faith. Otherwise, because of this strong attachment of belief in faith, people misuse it. And that's what we see with suicide bombers and things like that. that they tell the youngsters that this you're doing for the name of God, and God will be pleased with you. And they believe these things. And so they do these things which they normally would not do. But because they believe they're doing it for God and winning the blessings of God, they do things which obviously is against what God wants. So this is the power of faith, and this is what they exploit in various different ways. And the Christian missionaries are very good at this, of projecting that they are having this power from God, and so people believe in them. I don't know how much of it is deception, how much is it is just faith, but some of the miracles that they supposedly do, obviously we know can't be true, but some miracles, of course, can happen through Allah, and we see this all the time as well. But it's a question of how people use that faith of it for good or for misusing. So unfortunately with the Malvis, they tend to misuse it. And that's again why we've got to be very, very careful in what we actually believe. And this is why we keep saying that as Ahmadis, it's not just a question of believing. You should also question, make sure that what you're believing is true. Okay, Toby, I think you've got your hand up. You want to ask something else?
Yeah, exactly. Rabbi Saab, this is the last one. I don't want to cheat other people's time. Maulana Saab, of course, I have my own stories, but Alhamdulillah, we are lucky that we have you as a convert, and not just a convert, but a missionary. What advice would you give? Because sometimes we have young da'i, including myself and many more, we have a desire to go and do tabligh. If you come such a challenge, for you who is a convert and a missionary, what advice, a simplest advice would you give to those who are learning to do tabligh?
I mean, normally I would advise people two things when you're doing tabligh, and they are simple things which everyone can do. The first is obviously prayer. Prayer is vital. And you're praying for Allah to help you to convey the message, open up ways to convey that message, and bring people who's going to listen. So it doesn't matter how good you are in tabligh, if you don't have someone who is willing to listen, your words are just going to fall on deaf ears. So prayer is a very important weapon when it comes to tabligh, and you should always start with prayer and keep praying for the people you're doing tabligh to. The second thing, of course, is the example, and that's also very important. People watch how you behave. You just been mentioning about these priests and the Malvis and things like that. So you've got to practice what you preach. If you're saying one thing, but then you're seen doing something completely different, then why will people believe you? And, you know, I used examples of these with Hazrat Abu Bakr, that he, only through the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he became a Muslim. Didn't need to listen to the message or anything else. It was just the example. Once the Holy Prophet said he's a prophet, that was enough. And with prayers, we use the example of Hazrat Umar, that through the prayers of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he changed from someone who was about to kill the Holy Prophet to his beloved servant. So these are the two most important tools. Knowledge is good, but I mean, it's Allah who bestows knowledge. And usually you find that when you're in the field of tabligh, Allah will bestow knowledge. Allah will open up ways and means for you to convey the message. So that's important, but it's not as important as the example and the prayers. So those are the two, I think, most important things for any dialogue. Okay, so anything else, or shall we leave it there?
Yes, exactly.
Right, well, I hope everybody had a very blessed Jalsa, and those that went, I hope you didn't get too bogged down in the mud and the rain, but alhamdulillah, it was an opportunity at least to be in the presence of our beloved Hazrat. But those of you that stayed behind, I hope that you also had a very blessed Jalsa. Right, so let's finish it there then. We'll finish it as usual with prayers. So please, can you join me in silent prayers? Bismillah. Amin. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah.